Today on the pod, my guest is Maddi Fidler. Maddi talks about being a two-sport athlete in college, who she looked up to as a kid, and being a grad transfer. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Bases Loaded podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Kennedy, and today my guest is Maddi Fidler. Maddi, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Enjoying this this summer day without rain. You know, we've been getting drilled here in Ohio big time lately. What's up with that?
It's nothing good. We live on a lake right here in Holiday Lakes, Willard, and everything's flooded. The boats are out in the water. Jet skis are out in the water. We got like 8 inches of rain. Can't catch a break.
Yeah, as I say, it's like too much. We kind of like we almost like had summer like a little early in the spring, and now we're like getting drilled with spring for like 2 months.
Exactly. It's two extremes. It's either blazing hot or rain. There's
Right.
nothing in between.
Right. Mother Nature needs to get her crap together. You know what I'm saying?
Need to take a break on Shelby. They can't handle rain.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. So tell us where you go to college and what do you do?
So for the past 4 years, I've been out in South Dakota, Spearfish, South Dakota. I go to school at Black Hill State University. It's a small D2 on like the most western part of the state, about 10 minutes from the Wyoming border. I've been studying business administration for the past 4 years, and I just recently graduated with my undergrad in business administration with a minor in HR. And during that time, I was playing softball and track. So yeah.
Awesome. So do you have any big plans this summer before you head back to college?
Nothing too big right now. I've just been bartending, working a little side job. Since I'm home for such a short time, it's hard to get an actual, real big girl job. So I've been just spending some time doing that. And also I'm heading out to Utah in August, hopefully like August 7th-ish. And I recently accepted a grad transfer to Weber State University, and I'll be throwing there. So I'm dealing with the battle of finding houses, finding a job out there, getting all acclimated out there. So that's been a fun time for the summer.
Awesome. As I say, time will fly by, and then the next thing you know, you'll be there.
I know.
So with bartending, I've always kind of wondered this. Is that something that's kind of fun? You get to hear people's problems, you know what I'm saying? And you kind of like, wow, I guess I don't have it too bad, right?
I kind of turned into a therapist. Like I like it, but sometimes people just pour their whole heart out, But it's really interesting because I used to bartend out in South Dakota as well, and then here in Willard, and just hearing the differences of people about what they drink, what they do for living, what they do for fun. It's all very interesting. I have a lot of good stories from some very intriguing people that I've met while bartending.
Yeah, as I said, those are probably not podcast friendly stories, I'm sure.
No, not most of them. Some of them are humorous. A lot of the old guys tell me about their days in high school and all the trouble they used to get into, and it's just kind of fun to compare. Like, my life was not like that at all, but it's pretty cool to hear all their stories.
That's awesome. So describe what your life was like growing up, being a kid around sports.
I've been around sports, since I was born. My dad was a 2-sport college athlete at Ashland, and he lives up his dream. He tells all his stories about high school, college, all that. And then my 2 older sisters were always involved in the travel softball, travel volleyball, basketball, dance, like everything. So I was always that annoying little sister running around at volleyball tournaments. Everybody loses Maddi, and there's a big old manhunt for me because I'm over with the other team sitting at their camp, or softball tournaments. I was over there just throwing balls at whatever and anything. And I've been raised pretty well by all my cousins and my sisters. Just watching them, how they play, who they play with, what their heart that they put into it, and all that. So it's been nice, and I'm really happy I was raised in a sports surrounded family. So yeah.
Absolutely. So out of the Fidler girls, who is the favorite?
Just plain favorite,
yeah. Like who's the favorite? Who do your parents favor the most?
Alex and Corey would say me, but I personally don't believe that. I think I'm my dad's favorite because I'm like the tomboy of the family. I still in sports. I'll go out to the farm and help him chop wood in the morning, little stuff like that. But I think Corey's my mom's favorite daughter.
Okay.
She got all the brains of the family.
So poor Alex is just left out, right?
No, she's a little bit in the middle, carbs and a little bit of dog. So she's in betweener.
Love
But
it. Love
yeah.
it. So who did you look up to? We talked about this a little bit in the pre-pod. Who did you look up to as far as an athlete when you were a young girl going up, grade school? Who'd you look up to?
I think for being so young, and I think I was sixth grade when I truly not fell in love with her, but like started really looking up to her. But Allie Roth, we've been long-term family friends. They used to babysit me sometimes, and I got to go watch her play basketball, or I used to go be the ball girl at their camps and all that. And every single time I went to one of their basketball games, I was just like, oh my goodness, like I want to be like her when I grow up. She's a dominant presence on the court. She's always giggling. She's always just having a good time, being a good team player. So she really taught me a lot and led me to my direction of where I went, my future sports career. So yeah.
I was gonna say, did you think you were like cool because when she's like out there being a stud, you're like, hey, I know her. We're friends.
Oh my gosh, I thought she was a celebrity. I'm like, yeah, I know her. I have her number. Like you guys know, but I do. No, she. One time, when I was 6 years old, I got my appendix taken out, and we were very close with the basketball team as is because Jody Roth was coach at the time. It was Allie, Ashley Roth, all those guys, and the day I got back from the hospital, I went to the basketball game because I had to go. I had to go watch Allie. Got to go watch Big Dog. I used to call myself Little Dog Junior. No one, nobody else. But I went there, and then before the game, like after they did the announcements, they came over and signed a little basketball for me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, these ladies are like the NBA. Like I'm the coolest girl on the planet right now. But they definitely were great role models to me. Definitely made my life a couple times. So yeah.
That is awesome. So did you remember that as you got older, when you have like younger kids looking up at you, when you're in high school and stuff? Did you remember that moment of how crazy it is? Because when you're little, you look up at these kids that are older, like they are professionals, like they're probably getting paid, and it's that when you get older, you kind of sometimes can forget. But with that moment, I would think that that'd have to carry over with you, right?
It did. And it's hard to like realize that every move you make, somebody's watching. And usually it's a little girl watching, like looking up to you at a game or out in public at bicycle days. Whenever they see you, they know, oh, that's that girl that did this. So it is kind of a thing you always got to have in the back of your mind, like, hey, people are looking up to you, like, make sure you do the right thing. And so it's kind of like that little conscience on your shoulder. But yeah, no, I had a little self-realization when I was a sophomore in high school. I went to a softball tournament and I like hit a home run or something, and three little girls came up to me after, like asking if I could take a picture with them and sign their ball. And me? Like, are you sure? Like, I'm not that cool. But then I kind of like hit like, wow, that was a good feeling. You're making someone else's life, and so yeah.
Yeah, you were a superhero at that moment for those little girls.
It really made my head explode. But
that's
no,
good stuff. Who are some coaches that have made an impact on you?
From the start, my dad's been my coach from softball, basketball, travel, everything. I got to deal with him at the games and then the car rides home where, he starts biting into you, like, why'd you do that? Like, what made you think that was okay? And I'm like, Dad, come on, I'm 12 years old. Like, it's okay. But he was always my biggest supporter, my biggest critic. And then Nancy Winston, also known as Winnie, my freshman year of high school is when I really got to know her. She was our assistant basketball coach for all 4 years. She was just the girl. She was black and white, She let you know how she wanted to be done, when she wanted to be done, and how to do it, And she was just as a type of coach that made you want to be a better person and a better player. And I always appreciate her being so hard on us, because I know a lot of people, give or take, don't like hard coaches. Some people could stand the scream coaches. Some people could stand like the more personal coaches. Mm-hmm. And Nancy Winston, she was a hard person to get used to, but God, I'm so thankful to have her for those past 4 years.
Do you remember any specific times where she ripped into you?
Oh yes. My freshman year is when I got pulled up to varsity. We were practicing a full court press, and I'm not the quickest girl. I know that, and there was a ball that was like thrown all the way across the court, and I didn't get the steal. And Nancy Winston blew her whistle, stopped the whole practice in front of everybody, freshman, JV varsity, all the coaches. And she had a little limp, and so that was the scariest part ever. When she was like speed walking with her limp, like you are in trouble. And so she came all the way across to me and screamed like drop and give me 50. So I had to do 50 push-ups in front of everybody. And since then I knew like she is not the lady to mess with. You know, like if you mess up, like I have a little like Winnie genie on my shoulder, like Maddie, like what are you doing? Like don't do this. So yeah, she was a pretty tough cookie, but she was great.
I
Loved
love
her.
it. So you were a freshman. So you already are kind of like, watch what the older kids do right, watch what they do wrong, try to not make that same mistake or try to do it, as good or better. And you get ripped by a coach and you're like, oh dear. Did
Oh
you,
yeah.
did you think like, man, I really, I don't know if I'm cut out for this? Or were you like, all right, challenge accepted?
I think I was more like challenge accepted because I was fair warned about Wendy. You know, she coached Allie Roth and those guys. You know, she's been in the program for a while, so everybody knows who Winnie is and how she is. And so I think somebody told me before practice, like, when he yells at you, don't take it to heart. You know, like you'll be fine. Just do what she says, and you'll be good. And so when she did it, I was shaking. Like I in my shoes, I was sitting there, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna get kicked off the team. Like they hate me. And then finally, after I was dead, after doing 50 push-ups, I'm like, all right, she might like me. She just has high expectations. So I kind of turned it around and looked at it a different way than this lady is out for me.
I love it. So did your dad kind of prepare you for that then when he's
Oh
getting
my
into you when you're 12 years old in the car ride home?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, we started having this 24-hour rule after sports games. So after a basketball game, he wasn't allowed to talk to me for 24 hours because it would just be a boxing match, like we're just going back and forth to each other. He would yell at me because during basketball, a girl would fall like down in the middle of the play, and I'd stop and help her up. It's like, man, you gotta continue on. Like there's a whole game going on.
Where's
Like,
the killer instinct at?
I'm like, sportsmanship, Dad, sportsmanship. And so he always ripped into me about the littlest things. But I mean, at the time, I hated it. But I look back and I'm grateful for him giving me a little bit of tougher skin. So
Absolutely.
yeah, he went this time. So yeah.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about what went into your decision to attend Black Hill State.
So I was kind of at a point where I was like stuck with the recruiting process, and I just felt like every school I visited or toured the campus, whatever, it just wasn't, cut out for me. It wasn't what I wanted. I didn't know if I wanted a small school, big school, or if I wanted to continue on sports, if I didn't want to continue on sports. And like I was leaning towards, continuing on with sports. And so Jenny Alt from Shelby, she reached out to one of her old friends from Belleville, Lane Leedy, who coached in South Dakota. And she's like, hey, like this girl, she's pretty good at softball. Like you should come check her out. And so I'm pretty sure she sent her dad to one of my softball games.
Love it.
And the next day, she gave me a call and asked if I wanted to come out for a visit. And I went out for a visit. I love the campus. I love the area. It's all not mountains. They're called hills technically, but a bunch of hills, like rolling hills for miles. You don't see houses. You don't see civilization. And then there's just a small town called Spearfish. And it's very similar to Shelby, Ohio. 10,000-ish people, small high school, and then the college is right in the middle of campus. And like, I kind of like this, I'm comfortable with it because being raised in Shelby, it's more of a tight-knit community, and the coaches were all involved with every sport. Everybody knows each other. And so after my visit, I went back to Ohio, and I kind of like told my dad, I don't think he really expected me to actually like enjoy my visit. Like, wow, that's 20 hours away. Like, what are you thinking type of deal? And I just was going on and on about how much I loved it. And Coach Leedy actually came back and watched one of my basketball games at Ontario High School, and then told me she wanted me to come out there to play softball. And so the next day I ended up committing, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. So when you're out there, were you ever homesick once school started?
I wasn't. My mom wasn't happy to hear that, but I'm a very I'm independent where I like to do my own thing. Like if I have a challenge, like, oh, you're not going to make it out there, I'm going to make sure I make it. And the only real time I got homesick was missing my dog, little Ruger. We have a little basset hound, and I went through a phase where I just missed the crap out of him. And so then one time I played in Minnesota in a dome, and my parents were able to drive him out and come watch me at this dome. I'm like, Mom, Dad, I do miss you guys, but Ruger, like I miss Ruger.
Bring the dog. That's awesome.
I was really blessed because my parents were able to travel to pretty much all of my games and all my track meets. Sophomore year for softball season, we had 0 home games because of snow, and we don't have an indoor facility, so we'd have to go down to Colorado every single weekend. And I think my parents maybe missed one of those weekends. They were always traveling, little busy bees, coming out for the weekend, flying back home. So I was really blessed with great parents that are willing to make the trip to come see me. So that made it a lot better.
Yeah. So obviously you went there for softball.
Yep.
What the heck happened? How are you now doing track?
So freshman year, Lane Leedy mentioned to the track coach that I also did track in high school. Like softball was also always my priority sport, and I just did track whenever I could. And so he asked me to come to a track practice and try it out. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. If I do, they come back. And so I ended up like enjoying it. I wasn't thinking I was actually gonna be on the team and be a full-on track and softball athlete, but he never really let me leave practice. So I just kept coming back, and I started enjoying it more and more. And softball, it just was kind of, lingering out. I kind of lost the love for the sport for a little bit, and then there was some like team things going on and coaching switches that were kind of just adding to my decision. And finally, junior year, I think November time, I just called it quits on softball and decided to just be a one sport athlete. And so it was probably my best decision, I think, because being 2 sports and then school, having a life, keeping in contact with family, coming back and forth. It was just hard. Everything was building up. And so I'm like, you know what? You only have 4 years to enjoy college. Stick to one sport, like give yourself time.
Yeah, as I say, that was my next question is how tough was it being a 2-sport athlete at the college level? Because one sport is tough enough with one sport and school and everything else. But it's like you want to have a social life. You want to have friends. You want to get on your phone. You want to be a kid, a young adult. So did you have any downtime when you're going back and forth between sports?
For a moment there, I thought that I was eat, sleep, breathe practice. There was barely any time for schoolwork. There was barely any time to go to the cafeteria with the team, little things like that I wish I could have, like, had more time spent with them. There was a couple moments, but for the most part, everybody on the team, track or softball, were like my best friends. Like that was my group of like family out there. And so that made it a lot easier because I didn't have to go out of my way or after practice to go hang out with them or go to the library with them. Like we always saw each other at practice, then we'd go to each other's houses. But it did get to a point where I was waking up at 5 a.m. for lifts, going to practice after, then going to class, going to lift again, eating lunch, practice, and then homework. And so I'm just like, all right, my body's being beat up. Everything is just not where I wanted to be. And so it was tough at times, but the coaching staff really made it easy to balance practices. Like they would coordinate with each other and be like, all right, we have practice this time this day, this time this day. And then track would do opposite. And so I was always softball first, track second. And that made it very easy, deciding what to go to that weekend. If there was a softball and track meet, I'd go to softball. So it was tough for a moment, but we definitely made it found a way to smooth it out and get it on a steady schedule. So
sure. So with track, what events? What did you do in high school with track?
In track for high school, I just did shot put and discus.
So then, what are you doing in college? Because that would make sense that you would do the only thing that you know how to do, right?
Yeah, so I do something completely opposite. It is javelin and then the hammer throw. And so javelin, is that long spear that you run up, chuck. And for hammer throw, there's actually 2 events within it. So the outdoor event is hammer and the indoor is weight throw. So I do both of those. And the weight throw is a short like stick with a 8-pound ball. And then for the hammer, it's a short stick with an 8-pound, or a long stick with a 8-pound ball. And so both of them are completely opposite movements than I've ever done before in my life. And my coach was excellent. He took it slow, like I was a beginner, and first time ever learning a sport is tough, and so it took us probably like a solid year for me to finally get everything just right, the movements, like what to do when this happens and all of that, because it's all foreign language to me. So it was tough, but it's a fun sport. I love it. So yeah.
That is awesome. So I'd say it's all mental at that stage, right? With your technique, you got to try to figure that out because you've never done it before.
Oh yeah. And nobody likes not being good at something.
Sure.
So, when it's not working out, you're just sitting there like, what am I doing wrong? How can I fix this? Like, I have no idea what's going on. And so there was definitely a couple discouraging practices, but we just pushed through and we ended up figuring it out. So
yeah, you got Coach Winston on your shoulder saying, Maddi, quit being a sissy, get after it, figure it out.
You're fine. Just do it.
So you recently decided, as we talked about, to continue your academic and track journey. How excited are you for that opportunity?
I'm really excited. I think going out to a new place, meeting new people, new town, all that, I think it's going to be an excellent experience for me. I don't know anybody out in Utah. I don't know. I mean, I know the coach. Like, we've talked on the phone a couple times. He messaged me on Instagram to recruit me. So it's very, fresh, and I'm not kind of like being thrown out to the wind where I'm like, what the heck's going on? Like, where am I going? Who do I know? But I think it's going to be awesome. I love meeting new people. I love experiencing new places, new state parks, all of that fun stuff. So I think it's going to be a great experience for me.
So as I say, that the one good thing that came out of COVID, right, is that you get to continue your college, journey. Explain a little bit about the transfer portal type deal, because it's been going crazy within the last year. How was it for you?
It was easy for me, which is rare, for transferring. It's usually a difficult process for most of my friends that have tried transferring. I was planning on taking a gap year between undergrad and master's, and my head coach was like, hey, you have an extra eligibility from COVID, so while you still got it, might as well use it. And so I got put in the transfer portal this past Christmas, and about 3 hours later, the Weber State coach messaged me on Instagram and was like, hey, like, I saw you on the portal, like, we're looking for a grad transfer, would you be interested in Utah? And so we just got to chit-chatting, and he ended up calling me that night and offered me a spot to come throw out there. And so it was quick and easy for me. I was not expecting it to go like that. I'm texting my college coach. I'm like, how do I talk to this guy? Like, I haven't been in a recruiting position since junior year of high school, And so I'm like, what do I say? What do I not say? All this stuff, because I kind of lost it. But it was a quick, easy process for me. And so I'm thankful it went like that. It went very smooth. So
That is
yeah.
awesome. That is good stuff. We talked about this a little bit. What is the most embarrassing moment for you personally ever playing sports?
So I have 2. They all have to do with sliding. Sliding has never been my forte in softball. I've always been scared to slide, or when I do, it's not graceful at all. When I want to say 8, maybe, we were out at Dowd's, and my dad thought it'd be a good idea to teach us how to slide on a slip and slide. And I could have swore he told me to run on the slip and slide and then slide. So I'm over there trucking along, running on the slip and slide, fall, eat crap, end up with a concussion, can't go on vacation the next week. Yeah, it was bad. We were going on a cruise the next week, and I lost all my memory, everything. They're like, she can't go. And I'm like, I'm fine. But it was a bad concussion. I got home, my mom was on a trip that week, and my dad called her like, hey, we're in the hospital, like, Maddi hit her head. And she was just, what the heck did you do? Like, why is that a good idea? Maddi's not graceful. So it was a bad experience. Very embarrassing. Everybody was laughing until they realized it was serious. And then the next time, my next sliding experience was my freshman year of college. I was on first base and the catcher picked me off, and it was right before a rain delay. So there was all that quick dry on the field. And so obviously when you're at a base, it's like a soup, like it's like a quicksand, you know? So I tried diving back to the base when she threw it down and I just stuck. And I'm like 4 or 5 inches away from the base. And I tried doing like a little swim move to get there. And it was obvious. Like I was out. My coach was fighting mad. I come back to the dugout. Everybody's dying laughing because I'm like the goofball of the team. And I'm just a little freshman. I'm like, I just messed up. Like I'm gonna get my butt chewed, you know? And they kind of eased out the pain. And my coach's like, okay, that was kind of funny, but do better. And I'm like, okay.
You're like, we'll laugh about this later. Right now, be mad, be upset.
Exactly. But yeah, no, it was an embarrassing little moment there. And never have I ever tested a catcher again. I what's the base. I'm not pushing that one. So
Oh man. What is your message for young girls hoping to play college sports someday?
um I think it's to, you know, take a chance. Like if you have a passion, if you have a love for a sport, a degree, a job, you know, take the leap of faith. You know, whether it's far away, close to home, if it's you don't know anybody at a school, like go for it. You're in college one time. Um, you know, if you have the opportunity to travel and see the different part of the country, you know, try it out. Like at least try it out for a year. If you don't like it, you can come back home. Also, if you're looking to like to do sports in college, start the recruiting process early. It's never too early to start. It's okay to be annoying to coaches, to reach out to them, email them, call them, go to camps, introduce yourself. Just be very like proactive in the whole process. So, yeah.
Good deal. Well, what's your plans after college? You gonna move back home? Are you gonna stay out west? You just gonna keep traveling along, or what?
I think right now I'm just gonna go with the wind. I am planning on staying out west for at least a couple years, and then wherever I can land a job, and I will go there. If it's back in Ohio, it's back in Ohio, but I prefer to stay out on the other side. So
Well, I'd say you're gonna be building a lot of connections, everywhere you've been. So that's a good start.
I'm excited. If I need to go back to South Dakota, go back to South Dakota. If I want to stay out in Utah, there's a lot of opportunity out there, so it
Good
should be
deal.
good. Yeah.
What is your go-to social media and why?
Probably Twitter. I think it's a good source of comedy, keeping up with people back home, you know, what's going on in their life, who are they talking to, the boy drama, all of that. They got the funny videos on there. That's always like where my black hole is at night. If I get on Twitter, I'm on Twitter for an hour or two. You know, I can't get off. But keeps me up to date on sports because I'm not good at staying up to date on sports, and so it's a good little social media. You know.
I'm definitely with you. What about TikTok? Is that big on your list?
It is, you know, I don't like to admit it, but it's one of my favorite social medias for sure.
It's a time killer, right? You know what? I had heard somebody say this like last year during the school year. They're like, yeah, I don't have TikTok. If there's a really, really good TikTok, I will eventually see it on Twitter. Because most people post that stuff on there anyways. But
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what a lot of my friends like refuse to get TikTok, you know, like that's a kid's thing or whatever. And I'm like, you guys, I promise they have some life hacks on there. They have places to visit, they have the awesome videos, you know, like you gotta get it. All of them have got it, and that's all they do nowadays. You know, they just scroll and scroll and scroll. And you're like, crap, I've been on here for 4 hours. So it's definitely one of our favorites.
yeah, and some of them probably have it, but they don't admit it. You guys are
Yeah,
like, hey, did you see that one TikTok? And they're like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, right?
they start saying it with you. Like you
Love
call
it. So, what about your bucket list of traveling? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to see? Obviously, if money wasn't a huge issue in time, where do you still want to go and check out in the world?
I think after college, I hope to go to South Africa. I want to do like a little 10-day safari. I've always had the dream to go over to Africa. I don't know where it really sparks from, but I have from a kid I've been adamant on going to Africa one day in the future. And so my mom always does like a graduation trip with all of us girls after we graduate college or our masters. And so Corey went to Iceland, Alex went to Switzerland, and so I think I'm going to take her and I to South Africa. But
that is awesome.
yeah, it's a weird place, and we've been doing a lot of research, obviously about where to go, where not to go. But I just think it'd be so cool with like all the jungle, and I also have the city, just seeing that type of lifestyle. I would just love to compare and contrast to.
Yeah, as I say, growing up in Shelby, Ohio, it's really going to prepare you for that trip,
Oh yeah. It's very culturing over here. We know all about everything. So.
Yes. We think we do.
Small town Shelby, Ohio. Gotta love it.
Yes. All right, Maddi. Thanks a lot for being on the podcast, and best of luck to you in the future.
Yeah, thanks to you. I appreciate you.
Thanks a lot for listening to another episode of the Bases Loaded podcast, and be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter @Bases Podcast.